We are back. I'm not even sure what episode we're on right now, but we're just gonna keep it pushing.
Keep it going.
My name is CARSON COULTER. Of course, we
Pierre
got
Newton, Coach
Pierre
P.
Newton here. We got a cool guest today. We got a smooth guest, your very own GCU as well. Not anymore. Walter Ellis. What's good, man?
Good to be here, y'all. I appreciate y'all having me, bro.
If you haven't noticed yet, we're sitting center court at GCU Arena, and just like we always do, we're gonna get right into it. So introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, tell us what we should know about, Walt's upbringing.
Walter Ellis, I'm from South Bend, Indiana. Was born in Atlanta, moved to Miami, moved to Minneapolis, and then South Bend has been home since like second, third grade. So, been here at GCU for the last 2 years, went to Bucknell for 3 years before that, graduated, and just finished my college career, so yeah.
So I know you want to talk about the moving around and bouncing around so why did you bounce around so much?
Pops had played in the league for 11 years, so he was drafted to Denver. He played there for 6 years, and then moved to Atlanta after that, and that's when I was born. And then he bounced around in Miami and Minneapolis before retiring. So yeah, that was about an early childhood. We were moving around a lot, but yeah, it was fun for sure.
Moving around like that.
Yeah, I know.
Like, hey, we're going to this city.
So like, how was that? So moving around going from school to school to school, or was it like you started off elementary school in Miami first?
I would have been still like preschool age-ish, and then once we got to Minneapolis, by then I think I went through kindergarten, first grade, and then that's when we went to South Bend after that. So,
Got you.
Yeah. So by the time I was in second grade, we were pretty much in South Bend.
Okay.
So it was really like the early part of my life.
Yeah.
So you don't like totally remember, because on the way over here, we were kind of talking about like, as a childhood, I was in the same place for like 20 years. Had the same friends, grew up with all the same people. And so moving around, you got to make new friends. You got to get adjusted to a new environment. So like growing up as a little kid, how was all that?
I didn't, because I was still young, I feel like you kind of have a youthful spirit about yourself that makes you a lot more like malleable to situations like that, just because you don't really know any better. So I think at that time, we had moved from Atlanta before I was even one, so I don't remember any of Atlanta, but I remember my first memories really being in Miami. And it's not a bad place to kind of start your life out for sure. So we had a really good setup there. We love living there. And then going from Miami to Minneapolis is obviously a jump just from super hot to super cold. We love Minneapolis too.
Culture shock.
Minneapolis is a great city. We loved it. We loved our home there. Had a really good community of people there, just like we did in Miami. And then just felt called to move back to South Bend. My grandma still lived there at the time on my mom's side. My mom had grown up there her whole life, and then had met my dad in college when he was at Notre Dame. So that's why South Bend was a special place for me and my family. So I guess you don't really think about it too much when you're a kid. So I think all those relationships and stuff like that, I still remember all my best friends from those times. But yeah, it's kind of just
it's still probably exciting. Like, all right, cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I didn't really mind it too much. You get to see a new place and meet new people at the time. So I guess you don't really stress about that stuff too much as a kid.
Yeah, talk about that upbringing then. Like, obviously being your dad being in the league and stuff like that. Did you realize like, oh, my dad's an NBA player, or were you just like, cool, this is my life, basketball all the time?
I think me and my brother had this conversation even last week when we were at the finals, but him and my sister, because they're both older than me. And my sister was born when my dad was at Notre Dame, and then my middle brother, he was born while my dad was in Denver. So like they kind of grew up in the heaviness of when he was like the man, you know what I'm saying? And then he kind of has injuries towards the later part of his career, so he was way more of like a chill father by the time I was kind of being raised. So I think our experiences are a little bit different just because he was kind of on his way out as I was growing up, and then by the time I was 3 or 4, he was retired. So I kind of grew up in a very different way. But at the same time, I remember when we were younger, and I tell everybody this story about the Miami Heat, because Pat Riley and even just how they run their organization, they're very particular about how they care about the wives and the kids and stuff like that. So they make sure that they have a really good setup, just because, especially as it comes to free agency, they want to be able to have a place that guys can call home and stuff like that. So as a kid though, like kids room was rocking. I didn't care about basketball. Like whoever's in town playing in the game, I'm like, they got good snacks,
rocking,
good food. I'm like, they let us run around the practice facility, all that kind of stuff. So like, I ain't cared nothing about basketball at that point. So.
But it's just funny because like hearing these stories, it shows why you're so adaptable to being in different situations. Like I've known you for a while now, and like just seeing your transformation from Bucknell to GCU to now being a pro is like, it's normal for you to adapt, but it started when you were a kid, just adapting to new environments and being around different people. Like,
I never really thought of it in that way too. It makes sense because I always joke with people too, even going from 3 years of public high school in South Bend to Brewster. It's like I haven't really spent more than 3 years in a specific place since I've been even in high school, you know what I'm saying? So I think in that context, I kind of enjoy that. I kind of, you know me well enough by now, Carson, getting to know you over the summer. It's like I kind of like bouncing around and moving all over in different places like that. I just like experiencing different places of the world. So yeah, I enjoy it for sure.
And that's different because a lot of people, again, like where I'm from, a lot of people stay there and don't move. And it's uncomfortable for them to move.
Where you from?
I'm from South Dakota, baby.
Yes, sir.
Come on.
Represent,
Midwest. Let's go. Yeah. You were talking crazy about the Midwest earlier this week.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later, man. We'll talk about that later.
No, and you were in the Midwest for a
I was.
part of your...
That's why, like, even when we talk about Minneapolis, and we'll get into like your story being in Minneapolis and playing sports there, like, it's just different, man.
So different.
Like how you said, going from South Beach, you're going from South Beach to Minneapolis. Like that's just it's polar opposites. It just is. It's just polar opposites. And like, but again, being adaptable and having those experiences, though, it helps you. It helps you big time.
It just gives you another lens of like what's out there, 100%, and perspectives, 100%, things like that, and where people come from.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know you want to talk to him about his sports upbringing. I kind of feel like a theme of a lot of the people we've had on is they play multiple sports. So yeah, go ahead, dive into that.
Yeah. So talk about like your early childhood playing sports. Obviously, play basketball, but there was other sports you played. I heard from your mom you played a little bit of hockey. So talk about like being in Minneapolis, playing hockey, and just like that whole upbringing.
Yeah, that when we were in Minneapolis was around the age where I can start playing sports. You know, like when we were in Miami, still I was still young. That I'm just kind of messing around doing whatever in sandboxes, still doing whatever I want to do. But once we got to Minneapolis, again, that's when you kind of start playing in youth leagues and things like that. So I was just playing everything, and I don't know if it's because I was always around basketball that I didn't feel the need to play it. I don't really know if that was it, but yeah, we were in Minnesota around a bunch of Canadians where we play hockey. You know what I'm saying? So the lakes are frozen in the winter. You go out and play on the lake. Even like that's just normal activity. You got everybody ice fishing out there doing their thing. But yeah, I kind of gravitated towards hockey early. Just all my best friends played it. I skateboarded too at that time. My neighbors down the street. Yeah, we were skating.
We all lived the same life.
Yeah,
skating and stuff.
And then also in Minneapolis too, you got like great snow and ski resorts and stuff like that. So like that was when I first started snowboarding. I carried that with me to Indiana. But I think at that time, like I mentioned, my daddy had coached my brother even. I think my brother was in middle school at the time. He had coached his middle school team, and I was always in their practice, kind of just messing around, shooting, just doing whatever with my little like mini ball at the time. But again, Pops even at that age is like, ball, make sure you're not shooting from too far out, so you don't like kind of teaching me early. But I wasn't really into basketball at that point. And then moving to Indiana, I carried hockey with me. Still was a goalie at that point, playing over in South Bend.
I was just gonna ask what position you were. So you were in the net.
Yeah, I was in the net, bro. It was. I mean, being a big goalie and stuff like that, I was a good skater. And a lot of people that play hockey, they'll tell you it's like to be a good goalie, you have to be able to skate well. And again, I'm just bigger than everybody too, so I kind of it was fun while it lasted. I enjoyed it. And then
your mom said you were nice. She was like, he was really good at playing goalie.
Yeah, I was smooth, bro. I was smooth.
All the saves.
I was smooth. It was
when did you stop playing hockey?
I want to say after third grade, probably. I think that's kind of when I started to transition a little bit more towards football. I was really good at football when I was young too. I stopped playing my sophomore year in high school, and at the time I was actually probably better than football than I was at basketball. But
what position?
Wide receiver. Yeah, I had offers coming in from Miami of Ohio, I think Bowling Green too, which are like really, really good MAC schools, and MAC football is no joke. You know what I mean? So for them to be able to have that confidence in me as a sophomore, so I kind of had to have.
So then, talk about that decision. Then you have offers coming in football-wise, no interest basketball?
No, I had offers. from basketball too. I had Valparaiso, so Coach Drew was my coach at GCU the last 2 years. I had an offer from Valparaiso by that point, or it might have even been this summer after I was offered from those schools. But even with Miami of Ohio and Bowling Green, by that time, I knew I wanted to play basketball in college, and because the interest was there, like I was pretty set on like I'll be able to play Division I basketball. You know what I mean? So at that time, I don't necessarily regret it. I knew I didn't. Still to this day, I wouldn't have really wanted to play football in college. And even those schools that were coming in, it was one of those situations where we want to offer you a scholarship, but like we know you're a higher level than what we are. We just kind of want to build a relationship early. But even with their mind, like I remember the Miami of Ohio coach in specific, he was like, Ohio State was the school that he threw out. He's like, that's the level of receiver that we kind of see you as. Like, no,
wow,
I was nice, bro. Even Coach
we have to play some clips.
No, I got the huddle, bro. I got the old huddle, bro. But I think at that time, it was I'm happy I made the decision just because I was able to focus on basketball, but at the same time, I wish I would have just saw it through just to see how good I really could have been, you know what I'm saying? Because, I didn't even really try for football like that. I didn't really train at all. Just show up for 7-on-7 in the summer, show up the 2 days when they hit, and then that was what it was. So
the development for, like, a lot of players, and Carson, you touched on this, the theme is all the greats played multiple sports. Like, you have to play multiple sports. You have to, like, try different things out. And I think so many players, especially nowadays, get so caught up on, like, I'm playing basketball. I'm about to train as hard as I can from first grade until I'm a senior in high school. And I'll end up like, you know, the greats. But it's like, no, you have to go try things out. You got to go to the football field. You're a goalie. Like, you play these different sports, and you just have to.
I feel like kids can get burnt out. That was a conversation me and my dad would always have, like, because everybody would ask, like, do you want him to focus on basketball a little bit more? And he's like, I think it'll serve him better in the long future of his career than anything, just because you're a little bit more well-rounded. You know how to play different roles on different teams depending on what that kind of looks like. So I don't know, at least for my kids going forward, whenever that day comes, I'm like, I'll probably, you know, do the same thing, just have them do whatever. And
for sure. I know.
Let them rock out.
You know what I mean? Just let them rock out, do whatever they want.
YMCA sports, like,
well, no, you know what I'm saying?
kids
Whatever,
camp,
bro. Just
soccer,
do whatever,
Your
bro.
kid has to be in the Y.
Gotta
be, bro. You
YMCA,
know you gotta have it, bro.
I mean, it builds character,
You
bro.
gotta have
Boys
it,
and
bro.
girls
Humble
club.
them a little bit.
You gotta be humble.
You gotta have it, bro.
Go play baseball, soccer,
Do something,
mix
bro.
it up.
I did it
man.
all, bro. Yeah, I played baseball.
Because basketball was fresh for you.
Yeah.
So like when you were a sophomore, junior in high school, it's like, this is a brand new game.
Because I didn't even really start playing like basketball until 5th grade, I think, and that was just some like upward basketball. Like, I wasn't doing nothing, bro. So, and it worked for me.
That's
far. So,
I mean, that's good looks for your parents too, especially with your dad being in the NBA. Because a lot of times you hear like, "Oh, dad's in the NBA, like the kid's got to hoop, like that's his only choice." So
that's a blessing too, because I think me and him have had this conversation a lot where we see other pro kids, they feel such like immense pressure kind of from their parents. And I think even my dad, and he would tell you this, the way that he kind of brought us up is he just wanted us to be great in whatever we did. Like, bro, I played the guitar at one point. I played the drums or piano, like whatever it is. And my sister, she's at Yale getting her PhD. So like, that's kind of an example. Like, it doesn't really matter. But and his example is basically like a lot of pros, if they kind of have some insecurities about their career, I feel like a lot of times they can kind of take that out on their kids. I feel like I've seen that even in other father-son relationships that kind of have the same dynamic. With my pops, he's able to kind of look back on his career with a lot of satisfaction, I guess. Like, you know, he had a lot of injuries and stuff like that. That is what it is. We always felt like he could have got more out of his career, but he doesn't look back on it like, oh, I missed out on this opportunity, so my son has to go achieve that.
Live through it. Yeah,
I was a top 5 drafter, played 11 years in the league, bro. Like, you don't need to live through me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it made it easier for me going into whatever situation, because, again, pressure-wise, like, it doesn't really make a difference to me, you know?
And, like, we talk about, like, your dad, I've gotten to know him a little bit, and, like, just the character and, like, the person that he is just, like, it's just great to be around, and it's great to see. And, like, you see it in his kids, like, even with you. And, you know, sir, there's so many athletes and so many guys that go through a lot of things, and I'm sure your dad's been through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But to see, like, how he treats people.
For sure.
And that really holds weight, man. And you can see it in you and your sister and your brother.
Yeah,
like,
I appreciate it, bro.
And that's a big piece of it, too. Like, the development of, we talk about character is huge.
For sure.
So talk about, like, kind of like how your dad raised you and that kind of upbringing, too.
I think just because of him and my mom's experience and how they grew up, both single parent households. Pops was, you know, he was a government cheese type of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Project housing, like real trench. Like, everybody's all from this, that, and the other. Like I've been back to East St. Louis. Like, I've seen, like, it, you know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't where you want to grow up. I think even at the time, like, the highest crime rate in the country, I think, when he was growing up, like, it wasn't no joking. And even my mom living in South Bend, again, single mother, all that kind of stuff. So I think with them, even though they went from being in Notre Dame, being broke college kids, to then having millions of dollars as a rookie, like, that's a big jump, obviously. But the principles that they kind of grew up with and that feeling never really left them. And I think
core values.
The core values, bro. So I think with all that, even just how we were raised, we were very much raised similar to how they were from an approach type of perspective. It's just that we had resources that they didn't have, type of thing. So I think we always talk about the difference between spoiled kids and not spoiled kids, and how we even know some spoiled kids who don't have the finances to. It's more of an attitude thing than it is a resource thing. So I think they were very specific about how they didn't want us to be spoiled, entitled kids, that they wanted to raise kids that are hungry and motivated and can get it on their own and stuff like that. And obviously they want to help us do that. So it's not like they were just fiend for yourself type of parents, but at the same time, they wanted us to have some sense of we have to get it on our own, which I think they all did, and through all of my brothers and sisters, I guess, for that matter. So that was probably the biggest thing too, because it's easy to kind of look at pro kids and, oh, they have everything, they have this, that, and the other. But I think my parents were very intentional, especially by the time that I was born, just because I was the youngest. So they were very intentional about that. I think that was the main thing I recognized.
And then, so I'll get back on like the journey through, because we want to obviously get through like your upbringing to, you know, where you're at now and all those things. So then you, obviously, we just talked about getting offers from football, basketball, and then you decided to go to a private school your last year?
My senior year. So I did 3 years of public high school at South Bend John Adams. We won my sectional my junior year, which was like a super big deal. So that was like a really high note to go out on. And I had actually no intention of leaving, but Coach Smith from Brewster Academy, he sent me a letter in the mail, and he was watching me in AAU, and like I didn't decide to go to Brewster until August, like late August of.
A lot of people don't know what Brewster is. So what is Brewster Academy?
Wolfboro, New Hampshire. So yeah, that. At the time, they were in NEPSAC, which NEPSAC, when I was there and years before, like super historic for being some of the best basketball in the country. And you have post-grad guys to schools like New Hampton, Northfield, Mount Herman, like some of the best basketball you can find in the country, because you have a lot of grown men that are fifth years sometimes playing that, you know, so that's a big deal. And the amount of NBA guys that have come out of NEPSAC, like the list is seemingly like infinite, you know what I mean?
Name some of those guys.
I'm trying to think. Brewster alone, Devontae Graham, Donovan Mitchell, Will Barton. I'm trying to think other big guys that we have.
I would say those are all current guys too. It's crazy.
If you go into our gym, bro, the amount of guys that have gotten drafted from Brewster alone, bro, like we're competing with some like North Carolina, Kentucky, I think, are some like the only schools that have more draft picks than our high school. So
it's a full-on prep school.
Yeah, so boarding school type of vibe, but it's way different out in the Northeast, because I think how we know prep schools nowadays, it's like it's just different, bro. Like dudes don't, it's not real school type of thing. But even people at Brewster, they go there for gap years sometimes. If they want to get into an Ivy League, that's where they kind of go. So it's not a joke from a school perspective either. It just happens that in the Northeast, they have really good boarding schools that are also really historic basketball programs as well. So
then from Brewster, you had obviously some hoop offers. Talk about like the recruiting process. Do you have any crazy recruiting stories, or were you about to go somewhere else, switch your mind? Just talk about that process.
UNCG at the time that Wes Miller was there, so he's at Cincinnati now, and I was their number one guy, and I really love UNCG. It was just, when I had visited there, that was also right before I was going to Brewster. So like I was in the middle of moving from South Bend like all the way to New Hampshire, and I had just got to New Hampshire, and I think I just wasn't really ready to commit at that point yet, because again, I just moved in. It wasn't really anything that I was missing from UNCG. Like I love their staff, like great visit, great relationship with them still to this day. Even the main guy that was an assistant there, we still text to this day. Like those are my guys, but just wasn't really ready to commit, and they ended up. There's kind of a long story with that. I don't necessarily want to get into that, but they had a package deal that was kind of like their second option or kind of thing, and they kind of had to go in that direction, kind of unknowingly, I guess. There was kind of an assistant that was in the mix that was a little weird with that, but that didn't really have anything to do with me, and their coach still to this day is a little bit frustrated about that, but it ended up working out. I went through that whole year of Brewster, and even before then, I had gotten sick at the end of the last like open period in that summer, which was, I had Coach Beeline from Michigan at that point coming to watch me. So that was probably like the highest interest I had gotten. And he liked my game a lot, but that was when Jordan Poole was kind of coming on the scene as well. So that's a funny story with that. But yeah, kind of reset. My recruiting process kind of reset once I got to Brewster. So that's when I kind of started getting the interest from a lot of Ivy Leagues, Dartmouth being one of them. They're right down the road in New Hampshire. Yeah, they really wanted me, but a lot of Patriot League schools as well, because I was a pretty high academic kid. So it kind of fit that mold. But yeah, ended up kind of banking on Bucknell at that point.
Yeah, I was going to say, talk about Bucknell. What went into that decision?
Yeah, the visit. I want to hear about the visit, all that, man.
So funny about my visit, there's 6 best friends that I have from Bucknell that we all live together, all 7 of us, plus one of my managers. His name is Spence. But
in one crib?
We had, this is, all my Bucknell guys will laugh at this, and anybody that knows Bucknell, it's like, we literally lived in like, it seemed like a trailer park, but it was the most fun I have had for an entire year in my entire life. Like, it's all of it. We had a group of 7 best friends that the setup was, it was a double room, a living room with a kitchen, a double room, but then attached to that, there's a hallway, and then that exact same thing on the other side. So a double, and we had the whole thing to us though. So like at Bucknell, how they do it is usually you get one side of that, and that's how you lock that in. We locked the whole thing down, which took a lot to be able to get that. But through that, 2 of those guys that were in that friend group that we still talk every single day, but 2 of those guys were actually my host on that visit, Jimmy Sotos and Paul Newman. So we had a great time on that visit. But at the time, Bucknell was just coming off of 2 tournament appearances, back-to-back Patriot League champions. they were really like running the league at that point. So for me, it was kind of a decision of, do I go for an Ivy League where they don't do, how do they do it? They do need-based scholarships, not like merit-based. So for me, with Pops' financial situation, I'm not getting any of that. So I'd be paying $70 plus a year just to go to Dartmouth, you know, and Dartmouth, their program wasn't really at a great point at that time. So it kind of just seemed like I'd be putting in a lot to not necessarily get a lot out of a basketball experience. At least that's kind of the thought process, especially when you have a place like Bucknell where I think it's like $75,000 a year. I can get that for free. You know what I mean? Like, and they're winning too. So that was kind of the decision I went up at that point. I saw their program kind of trending in a good direction. And I kind of wanted to be a part of a winning culture. So that was really the main decision that went into it for sure.
Dang. And then, man, $70K a year. So talk about that. They were going to make you, even if you're like a scholarship athlete, they don't really have that there. Like you still got to
At least at the time, no. I don't know if it's changed now, but that was kind of my understanding.
That's how it is.
That, you know, that
Ivy Leagues, they don't have academic or athletic scholarships.
Because similar in the Patriot League, at least at Bucknell, they don't like, this is where we get in like cost of attendance, where you get certain checks and things like that. The Bucknell doesn't do that because they're very specific on, they don't want athletes to have any sort of a heightened experience compared to a normal student. So like that's kind of an annoying part about being in an academic conference. But at the same time, I can go to Bucknell for free and get like a dang near equal education to an Ivy League for free and go to a winning program. Like, you know, so that was kind of the thought process at the time. It just seemed like a no-brainer with what I was kind of looking for. And I knew that a degree like Bucknell post basketball, like it'll pay off. You know what I mean? Like that degree kind of holds weight. So
I feel like a couple players have talked about that now. Like Langston talked about being stamped. He just graduated from Washington. I think that's something that a lot of players need to look into. Is like, all right, yeah, I can go hoop here, but I can also get a degree from, you know, a big stamped school. So that's good that you looked into that. Did that come just from you, or did your parents kind of beat that into you as well? Like, hey, kind of look at the long term of this decision.
My parents were all just talking about upbringing and things like that. My parents, that was the one thing they didn't play about was school. Like you can basketball, okay, if you miss some shots, my mom's gonna be more mad than my dad probably, but like all that kind of stuff. But like school, like none of their kids were allowed to slack off in school. Like that was one of those things where you had to handle your business. And I think for them too is they thought we were capable students, you know what I mean? So it's not like, not everybody can be some overachiever in school, but they just felt that my brothers and sisters and I were capable of being super high-level academics. So I think because of that, even having the experience at Brewster where I was challenged a lot more academically than I was in public school, that we kind of saw the fruits of that, and even being a way more high-level thinker coming out of Brewster than I was going into, and then coming out of Bucknell being way more rounded of a thinker than I was going into it. So like that's kind of the stuff that they were very adamant about even at a really young age. So I think even just looking at it realistically, like I know that my pops was a top 5 draft pick, and that's a very, very specific life course that is not realistic for 99% of the people, you know what I mean? So especially looking at it, it's like stats aren't really on your side. Like, what are you going to do after basketball? That was always kind of something I was aware of. So I obviously now looking at a pro career, which is a blessing to be able to have that opportunity, but at the same time, I'm also super excited for a career after basketball. And I think I've set myself up in a way with my degrees and things like that to be able to do that. And a lot of that comes from my parents. So
that's big time.
Yeah, talk about your development from, because I know you, I guess from the training side, the basketball development side, talk about like your player development from Bucknell to now being at GCU. Where there's something that you were struggling with at Bucknell that you think that you've gotten a lot better at now? Or was it always been kind of a consistent, like, okay, I've always been a shooter, I'm just going to become an even better shooter?
It even kind of goes back to when I first told my dad back in 8th grade, like, I want to do this. Like, I want to play.
Yeah.
I told him in the conversation, I'll never forget, we were sitting in our living room. He was like, we're talking with my mom of like, okay, how do we want to kind of attack this? Because you can easily get into a situation with a pro dad to where he's so hard on you that you end up missing out on the father-son experience where it's just like coach type of thing. And we didn't want to ruin our great relationship that we had as a father and a son. But at the same time, there was kind of like, Pops, I want to get to a certain level. You've been to that level. Like, let's lock in type of vibe. So that's why we kind of had that conversation when I was in 8th grade. Like, I think I'm good enough now as an 8th grader that I feel like I can make something shake eventually as a pro. And I told him, this is the conversation we had. It was, I want to get paid out playing basketball one day. That's the goal. That's what I want to be able to do. And again, being realistic is the NBA super realistic looking at it. Yeah, you can swing for those dreams and stuff like that, but just being realistic, I want to be able to play overseas. I want to be able to play in the league, whatever it may be. I want to play pro basketball. And from that point on, it was kind of a progression. I was always a good shooter. Even when I was young, I was more of a stretch forward because I was taller than everybody. But every summer we would change like one fix about my shot, whether it be my shot used to be a lot higher over my head, tightened it up, got it more a little bit out in the front. My shot pocket used to be a lot lower, more like lower than my waist. We tightened that up to where it's above my belly button now. Like those kind of things, we would kind of prioritize one thing each summer type of thing. And then by the time we got to Bucknell, I think around my sophomore year, like my shot was pretty much my shot at that point. Like shot pocket was good. And then by that point, it was just becoming super, super consistent and efficient. And again, there's still little tweaks that we have to make to this day. You guys know, like sometimes we go no dip shots just to be able to kind of feel that stuff out. But that was always kind of the progression. And I think his point at a young age was if you can shoot and play D, you'll be able to get paid. You know what I'm saying? All the other stuff, we're going to work on that. We're going to work your handle. We're going to do all that kind of stuff. But if you can shoot and guard, there's a place for you. And
yeah, that all translates.
Yeah, and it was funny because that was kind of even before the time now where guys are getting paid $100 million to just shoot in the corner and play D. Like that's a niche now, bro. Like a niche, bro, for real. Like so, I think he was kind of ahead of his time of he wanted all his sons to be able to shoot, and obviously I was just the one that ended up taking basketball all the way through to the D1 level, and that was kind of the plan at an early age. But from a development perspective, even from Bucknell, I think it was really more of a mental thing than anything. When I was younger, I used to get swayed by the makes and misses a lot more. Even playing time situations like that stuff would affect me a lot more emotionally, where yes, I still feel the same things that every player feels and stuff like that, but I've been through enough in my career where I know how to not let that affect my spirit and my energy and that kind of stuff. So
it's kind of back to the control what you can control at that point. So
yes, sir.
I don't know how much more you want to talk about basketball, but I want to get into the creative side of things. I want to talk about, you got more questions about it?
No, I was going to say, what went into, I guess, the process of you leaving Bucknell to go into GCU, kind of just that whole process, the transfer portal, and because that's huge right now. The transfer portal is a big topic of discussion. Everybody's transferring, everybody's switching schools. You were kind of right before that kind of that wave of it. But talk about that situation and why you chose to leave Bucknell and why you chose GCU.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially looking at it now because the transfer portal is just so crazy now. And I was kind of like the first year of it where it was really, really opened up. But again, coming into Bucknell with really high expectations, like we're naive freshmen. It's like, wow, we're going to win 4 rings in 4 years. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like kind of thing, like not really knowing how hard it is to win type of deal. No, you know what I mean? Like you come in like, bro, we just won 2. I'm about to get 4 rings. We about to this, that, and the other. And it just didn't end up panning out that way. We lost in the championship my freshman year. And we always joke that like if you know the Patriot League, like Colgate nowadays is who you think of. And like we joke that like we made Colgate type of thing. Like Colgate wouldn't be Colgate if we didn't let them be Colgate. That was our joke. But in that situation, my freshman year, we had the 1 seed locked up with 5 games left, blew out 3 of our last 5. We lost to like Holy Cross on the buzzer beater. I'll never forget Matt Fogg gamed us, bro. We were pissed. Oh, we were so pissed. And we lost to Navy. Like, bro, just lost that we never should have had, bro. I'm telling you. So we lose 3 of our last 5. We're co-champs with Colgate for the regular season, but in Patriot League, there's no neutral site. So they technically had the tiebreaker. So they got home court advantage in the championship. We lose to them in the championship. They go, like, they were not like this at this point yet. Like the year before, Bucknell had beat Colgate in the championship. We're like up 25 with 10 minutes left. Something crazy, like waxed them, bro. So they definitely remember that. I wasn't there, so I obviously had no idea. And then they just get Jordan Burns gets hot. Jordan Burns becomes Jordan Burns, and then Colgate is what they are to this day. But after that point, we were really good my freshman year, but we should have won in our minds. But after that, felt like the program was kind of turning in a different direction. Our sophomore years, just a lot of frustration from the players, and that was I talk about all those guys that we all lived together, and at the same time it was the best year for us in terms of living wise. Like it was all of us best friends that are all living together. Like it was the funnest year ever. But at the same time, from a basketball perspective, it was probably like the hardest year we all had together, you know. So with that being said, we ended up Jimmy Sotos and Khalil Spear, who were 2 of the 7, they ended up transferring to Ohio State, and Robert Morris, and then the rest of us had stayed until the year after. But at that time, I knew that eventually I was going to try to get out at least after year 3. But I knew I wanted my degree too, so that's why I didn't kind of wrap it up after my sophomore year. It's like, again, the Bucknell degree that holds weight, and that's part of the reason I went there. So at that time, that was the decision I made to overload on classes over the summer, overload on classes the fall of my junior year. I think I was taking 6 at a time my junior year in the fall and spring semester, which was a lot. And then I took 3 in the summer before and 3 in the summer after, and then I was done. But yeah, so I kind of knew I was eventually going to want to leave Bucknell, but I wanted my degree, you know, and that was important to me. And I'm happy I made that decision, but at the same time, it ended up being a blessing that COVID hit, because then I get another year after my 4th year. So that ended up being a big help too, just because I knew that instead of even staying at Bucknell for all 4 years, that I'd have 1 year to get to a place, get kind of comfortable, and then my 2nd year really kind of unleash a little bit, and I'd try to finish my last year off on the strongest note possible. So that was kind of the biggest decision in terms of leaving Bucknell and eventually coming to GCU. So
that COVID year was crazy for a lot of people,
Todd.
for a lot of reasons.
Todd.
Yeah,
a lot of ways.
Hectic. Yeah,
it helped people, hurt people.
Yeah.
But as far as, again, we talked hoops basically this whole time, but you got a brand that you started. Obviously, I got my brand, but I just want to talk about the creative side of things, where NOBAD came from, how you decided to actually turn it into like, all right, I'm going to start a brand. Did it just start as fun for you, and then people started messing with it, and they're like, bro, like, I want a piece, things like that? Like, talk about kind of the creation of NOBAD.
It started over quarantine, actually. So again, so many positives. At least for me with COVID, I was blessed that besides my Bucknell experience, my junior year, just because a lot going on with COVID that year, that was not very fun. But in the summer when I was home, it was some of the best times ever, I guess. But at that time, Bucknell demographically is a very interesting place, because you have a lot of rich white people from New York City, Connecticut, New Jersey, that kind of, you know, a lot of CEO babies like Forbes, Wall Street kind of family, stuff like that. So the way I dress is a lot more like streetwear and things like that, where like there's kind of like Golden Goose and things like that. Like that's kind of the vibe.
Vineyard vines.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Nah, I got you.
And, no. So for me, a lot of people that kind of, I dressed a little bit different. I was a little bit more like swaggy per se, and I think people kind of resonated with that, and it kind of, people just kind of knew me around school for the basketball player who, I kind of just dressed a little bit.
Put the shit on a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to, but at that time, and, bro, I look back at my fits from Bucknell too, I was like, bro, your fits were terrible, bro, but I guess people liked it at that time, whatever. But
that's growth, man.
No, I appreciate it, bro. Need it, bro. Bad fits, bro. Like bad fits, trust. But that's why in quarantine, because I kind of had that rapport a little bit, I'm looking at, I like expensive clothes, you know what I'm saying? I like high-end streetwear, I like Rude, I like Gallery, I like all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, I feel like I can do this, you know what I'm saying? So that summer, just worked to be able to set aside a little bit of money that I can put into one hoodie drop. And I was working on that one hoodie for the whole summer. I was working on the hoodie before I even had the name for NOBAD, which is funny. So I know I had the design ready, and I had no idea what the name was. And that same guy, Jimmy Soto's, who I was telling you about, I'm texting him every day, like, names. I'm sending him this, and no. We're both like processing out loud, like, no. A month later, I think, I sent him NOBAD. I still have the text. I had the screenshots in my hood. It was like NOBAD. I was like, and then we kind of just keep going through like NOBAD what, and then it's like it's open ended, so you kind of have that thing going for you as well. Stuck on that, and I think kind of the early model of what I wanted to do with it was like, I just want to be able to make cool clothes for me and my homies that we can make just as quality as stuff that we're going to get from these high-end stores, but for a fraction of the cost type of items. I feel like I can do that. And then even expanding that outwards towards my current market is, I think, especially since I've been in college, like, bro, we all been college kids, bro. We don't have, majority of us don't have the bread to just be going to drop $400 on a plain tee that's basically Hanes quality, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so I think with all that, that was kind of the early motivation from it. And then, I just really enjoyed the process of making clothes and starting from nothing and having a product that releases and sells out. Like, that's just it's a beautiful thing.
Turning an idea straight from your brain, like seeing it, feeling it, like, it's like, dang, it's different for sure.
It's a beautiful thing. So I think even in that context too, my dad would always say this when I was younger. I came into Bucknell, I thought I wanted to be a bio major just because they didn't have kinesiology or anything like that, which is what I would have wanted to do. But my dad, even when I was young, he was like, you're a business type of guy. Like, and he never forced that upon me. You know, my dad's personality, and that's why he let me kind of trial and error with the biology degree and stuff like that. But ended up switching to psychology, got a minor in econ and religious studies, but get my MBA as well. And he's like, I knew it. Like, you're a business mind type of thing. And that's kind of where NOBAD started. It was a fun kind of business project I've been doing for the last couple of years. And now kind of looking for a lot more now that I'm done with college. So
no, it's dope.
Let's do a fit check real quick. You got some NOBAD on.
Got some NOBAD on.
Show the cam real quick.
We got NOBAD on the hoodie. We got you know what I'm saying, NOBAD.
The labels.
The labels. We got, it's detail work. This hoodie actually came out of, and this actually speaks to the philosophy of my brand too, is I'll just make whatever I need in my closet at the time. Like that's like the easiest way, that if I have like creative block or whatever it is, because you know how it goes. Sometimes you just can't. You have like some vision in your head, but it's just like foggy, and you can't get down. It's so freaking frustrating. But if you ever get stuck in stuff like this, you just look at your closet. What do I need? I needed a basic gray hoodie and I needed a basic black hoodie. So
here we go. Yeah,
here it is.
That's like George Heaton, he owns brand owner Represent.
Yeah.
His whole thing is just like, I just wanted to make clothes that basically to fill my closet.
Yeah, bro.
And it just happened to work out that everybody else messes with
that.
it. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to do it. It's like great business plan. Even at Bucknell too. That's how people be like, oh, like why do you make these colors this way? I'm like, because I need this and this is what I want to wear. So like, why would I, again, go give somebody else $500 of my dollars just for some weak T-shirt that I can make in good.
And you can make a bulk order that other people can wear.
Yeah. Like, and that's why even with Nomad, people talk about how I price things and stuff like that. I'm like, I just price it so I can make one more of the same thing. Like, it kind of just scales that way. So it's kind of been an organic thing where I just make what I like, and people seem to vibe with it for the last couple of years. So
is the hat a sample?
Yeah,
there's just a one-on-one.
There's a sample so far. I don't know if I'm gonna go ahead and release this. I have some other hats that are in production as we speak. Those should be.
I'm kind of getting on your head a little bit. I've been hearing a lot about, I got this. Like, when's the new drop coming?
Hats in production. I have hats that are getting printed on the 14th. That should be in the next couple of days. Those should be here a couple of days after that.
I was gonna say, you always gotta make it longer because they're always on some wild stuff.
And then I have 2 embroidered hats that should be done in anywhere from 8 to 14 days, and then I have shorts that have been in production for the last 2 weeks that should be here in the next couple of weeks as well.
Go, man.
And after that, I have a big project of a hoodie and short set that I'm doing for. Are you familiar with Nantucket, Massachusetts by any chance?
Yeah.
So all my people, again, Bucknell crowd of, that's kind of their world and things like that, and you kind of have the scripted Nantucket merch that just kind of like BS that costs $110.
Yeah, it's just
one of my, again, best friends from Bucknell, his girlfriend, who I was really, really close to my freshman year, she was like, we need like NOBAD Nantucket merch. That's a big project I'm working on right now. After that, though, I got tees I'm working on, more hats, sweats and stuff once we get towards the fall. So especially now, you were a big catalyst for this as well. It's like, yeah, I'm done with college now. I'm looking to kind of take a next step with NOBAD. It's been a fun kind of side project company, but I think I've developed a market and a customer pool.
Sure. And people like, you start creating stuff just for fun. It's a creative outlet, and then you kind of get a little bit of a rumble, and people want more of it, and then it gets even more motivating. The hardest thing is not to get stressed out and like trying to top things. It's just make what you make and stay focused on it.
Easiest way to get blocked up is like, I think for me, I'm a perfectionist, and that's like the biggest roadblock for me is when I get something and there's just a little bit of friction for even like something like this. Like this patch initially, I wanted to have it on this arm, but for some reason with the manufacturing of it, it was a lot more cost and labor intensive to put it right here than it would be right here. And that like pissed me off for like a week. You know what I'm saying? It's like, fam, just adjust it, put it right here. Who cares type of thing. So it's like,
I care.
Being
bro.
a creative will teach you a lot, bro. I'm telling you, you fight with yourself more than anybody, bro. Like,
facts.
You versus you.
Telling you versus you.
Putting all this together, we're talking about fashion, we're talking about basketball, we talked about school. And I think just for the viewers, like, you have to be a well-rounded person. You have to have different aspects to your life. I think there's too much stuff out there saying, hey, just focus on one thing. You have to be a Renaissance man. You have to be able to focus on different avenues because, I mean, we're people and we have different values and we also have different things that we're interested in.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like a testament to all those things.
100%.
Like, put in the work on the court, put in the work in the classroom, you put in the work with your own fashion, your own business. And I think sometimes players get too caught up in, oh man, I got to drop 30, bro. Like, this is my life. Like, I have to, and it's like, you have to be well-rounded. And I think when you are that way, success kind of just naturally starts to come to you.
I think it's a funny thing too, because yes, you do have to have your 1 or 2 things in your life that are your main priorities that you really have to strive for just to put food on the table for that matter. And I remember I used to get this question a lot with NOBAD when I first got the GCU. It's like, how do you have time in the day, bro? Like, you know what I mean?
We talked about this.
How do you have time in the day? Like, are you that committed to basketball? I was like, fam, I work out 3 times a day still. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I still get up at 6 every day where I'm on the court by 7, get a lift in every day, and then I'm usually getting shots up later at night. And they'll be like, okay, so where does like NOBAD fit in? And I'm like, simple thing, I don't play video games. I had this conversation with my coach when I first got here. One of my assistants was like, how do you have time? I'm like, I don't play video games, bro. He's like, huh? I'm like, you got to peep, bro. Dudes are spending 4 hours a day on the game.
And then another 3 on their phone.
I mean, like, even me, like, there's so much time that I waste just sitting scrolling through social media and just doing nonsense. It's like, bro, you actually put that towards something that you want to do. Like, I enjoy making clothes. And the funny part about it is when you have multiple things going for you, if you have kind of some momentum with all those things, they feed into each other so well. So yes,
they feed into it.
Yes, I could just take away NOBAD, I could take away school and solely focus on basketball. But it's like, how much, the question kind of is, how much farther would I get in basketball that you don't really know? Like, how, again, even in a situation, say I stopped doing NOBAD or stopped taking school seriously last year, it's like, do you guys think I would be any better of a basketball player now than no?
Exactly. No.
And at the same time, too, there's also a lot that I've learned from the business side of things and the school side of things that factor into how I play basketball as well. So even now, to a point where I have a large following of people that follow me for basketball reasons, those people are also turning into customers now. Like, that people are also asking me for advice on things because they know that I went to a really good school and learned a lot of really good things academically. It all kind of feeds into each other. So I think, yeah, you want to have
free game, lock in.
You know,
lock in.
Nah, bro, like it's real talk though, bro. Because I think you want to have your main thing that you push for, but I think, at least for personalities like me, I feel like I'm capable of doing a lot. And me and you say, like, when I'm locked in on my goals and things like that, I'm like, I feel like I'm a machine, bro. Like, no, for real, but like when I'm in those modes of, I'm taking care of NOBAD every day, I'm doing everything I need to do for that, I'm getting my workouts in, I'm getting my reading and all the little self-development stuff that we talk about, bro. It all factors in, bro.
It's volts of confidence to yourself, too, because a lot of people are like, all right, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then you don't do it. And then it's just like slowly, you're just like, you're lying to yourself. And then once you actually attack it, you do what you say you're going to do. It's like, bro, you can't stop me right now.
You can't, bro. And you wake up with that attitude every day. It's like, I come into a workout with y'all, like, I just cranked out a whole design, got some samples in the production. I come into a workout, I'm juiced in the morning, bro. You know what I'm saying? In the same way, I have a great workout in the morning at 7:30 with y'all. I'm motivated for the rest of the day, bro. I go crank out some more NOBAD, crank out some more business stuff, do my accounting or do some website design, whatever it may be, bro. Like, yeah, it all factors into each other, bro. Like,
that's good talk, man. That's good
100%.
talk. But we do have a new segment. You're gonna be the first. First person on this. It's gonna. We might think of a different name, but right now it's just this or that.
This or that.
So it's just gonna be quick little rapid fire of some different things. So just answer as fast as you can. Try not to just first of the mind. So just this or that. All right. Beach or pool?
Beach.
Ketchup or ranch?
Ketchup.
Netflix or Hulu? Hulu.
Netflix.
Beyonce or Rihanna?
Beyonce.
Kobe 8 or Jordan 11?
Kobe 8.
Stay in or go up?
Stay in.
Book or podcast?
Podcast.
Drake or Kanye?
Kanye.
Kobe or LeBron?
Kobe.
Bucknell or GCU?
Both.
That boy couldn't get in trouble.
I got a ring. Go. I say GCU. I got a ring here. Go GCU.
All right, man. If you don't have anything else to add, I think that wraps up. That was a solid episode.
It was a really good episode.
Coming straight from GCU Arena Center Court. And then again, I've been doing this towards the end of every episode, but we got a tour coming, facilities tour.
We do.
So you're gonna see more of Walt on the channel. Yeah, man. I appreciate you.
We gotta do it. I think we gotta do a part 2. Because now he's going to go into his pro journey, so we got to kind of tap in.
We can do episode 2. We can do episode 2.
You can give a quick little synopsis of what's going on. Obviously, we've been working all summer. Yeah, bro. You just got a phone call.
Yeah, no.
So what's good?
We've been working all summer after the season got over. Again, being a pro has been a dream of mine since, really since 8th grade. And at the point now where I had a really good finish in my college career and looking at some pro prospects. But we've just been working out all summer. Didn't sign with an agent or anything. Didn't really feel like it was a need yet, but just got a call on Tuesday from the Detroit Pistons, and they want me up there for NBA Summer League, which is huge. And then after that, I'll be playing in the TBT with Team Heartfire as well. So July is basically all basketball, and the Summer League opportunity is huge because especially looking at pro prospects for afterwards, that's going to be a bigger opportunity for me to go try to make something shake. So that's kind of what's on the horizon for now. Yeah, just training still. I got a couple of weeks until I got to go to training camp. So
let's go, baby.
Yeah, last little push, but we can definitely do something for sure.
Put in that work.
Trying to, bro.
Got to work out tomorrow.
Yeah,
we got to work out tomorrow.
Bright and early Monday morning.
Yeah.
All right, man. That wraps it up. You versus you. Appreciate you tuning in.